Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful people in Orange County. I'm Danny Flores, your host, and today's honored guest is Josh Bois, zooming in from Newport Beach. John is a global entrepreneur, accelerator, bringing 15 years executive experience at tech brands and consulting firms to help brands get the capital, marketing, and strategy they need to grow revenue and market share. Client list ranges from Fortune 500s to startups, celebrity, political, and government, and also philanthropic brands around the world. He is a thought leader and a serial entrepreneur who can see beyond the curve and help your brand pivot accordingly to gain a competitive advantage and market differentiation. Specific skills encompass delivering, creating, and executing on proprietary and innovative marketing strategies to target ideal demographic of customers, investors, or strategic partners, managing various functional roles and aspects of business, fundraising, and strategy. A strong leader and networker who continually shows the ability to communicate with lead teams, clients, investors, and partners globally. Welcome, Josh.
Welcome. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got into that.
It's funny actually hearing the resume, because depending on who I talk to, I have so many different companies in my portfolio. I have to adapt my bio, and I don't even know which bio to use. I have to meet with this like $500 million company CEO a little later, pre-IPO, and they're asking for a bio, and I'm like, I don't usually even provide a bio. I'm like, Google me. Oh no.
Right.
Ask the question again. Sorry, I got distracted there.
So to explain a little bit about what you do and how you got into it.
Yes, I've always worked for myself over 22 years, building companies out of Orange County, Silicon Valley, Washington, D.C. Right now, I run 2030 Ventures, which is kind of my baby to build all these different brands and companies out of. But especially relevant to Orange County here, one of the companies I headquartered here is Global Capital Network. So I've built an international investor network that brings in from angel investors like you see on Shark Tank to large family offices, institutional investors, sovereign wealth funds overseas, Dubai, London, basically to help fund great companies, not just startups, but growing ideas too. So here in Orange County, I do a lot of really large investor events. So it's kind of like, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen like Shark Tank, for example. So instead of, presenting your idea to 4 sharks, I give you the opportunity to present to, hundreds of investors at once, whether it's in person, physically, or on our live stream from our events. So I'm kind of a big resource here in Orange County. For people to come from LA and San Diego, fly in from around the world. That's kind of like me giving back to the city here to allow people to find strategic partners, money they need. We partner with large banks, for example, doing things like in the women's leadership space with large banks, engineering firms that can help you build out world-changing products. I had Cuba Gooding Jr. on stage the last event talking about like video tech that for one of his brands. So we literally, involve all sorts of different partners. Just try to create definitely created an ecosystem here in Orange County, and I interface with the other ecosystems to kind of have an aggregator of senses, so I'll bring in like UCI's lab, for their tech innovation, and they'll bring their top tech and nanotech innovations in San Diego's lab, but then I'll bring, the big VCs in Orange County. I'll bring in the other power players, right? So it's really kind of a power player summit where I bring all these people together. Usually 3 times a year at I have 30,000 square feet of space, and I'll have 500-600 people in person, and we're growing. And try to create a curated audience. That's just kind of one of my brands. And I also help invest into third-party companies and market them and build technology. And I have a whole suite of my tech companies, but I won't go too deep into all that.
Yeah. So it looks like you need to consistently grow, or especially in the beginning, to be in touch with the family offices and the VCs and everybody who's looking to place their money somewhere. And then it looks like you also have to be in contact with people that are looking for money, that have what the
Mhm.
so you're kind of the middle guy connecting everybody.
Exactly. And I actually launched a software platform called Global Deal Flow as well, to kind of democratize access to that. And I feel like people use that word all the time, but I feel like this is actually like one of the true senses of that word, where a lot of platforms out there, it's vertical based, like, oh, this is just for real estate transactions, or just for medical, or they're geo based, like this is just for West Coast, or just for, South Coast, or just for Southeast Asia companies. I tried to build, just but like the name Global Deal Flow, just like Global Capital Network, it kind of explains what it is. It's literally a
Hmm.
single platform for all deals and all investors, so you can filter down to match with what you want. I'm actually building out algorithms and computer learning to better match companies and people and investors, and also the service provider side of it too, so people can connect with what they want. So that's just kind of one aspect of the business, but um, it's just really exciting, so we can kind of change the world while making money at the same time, really supporting
Right.
not just, you know, I like to connect all sorts of people and companies of all types, but I do have like a special place, not just in my heart, but a mission that I'm 24/7 on to change the world. So I'm trying to also really find, and I give out impact awards in my event to companies really doing awesome things, whether it's a product or a solution, to use DNA to solve cancer, or to use AI to, improve security, or to have new, forms of energy production. So that's really exciting thing that's going on. There's a big ecosystem in Orange County here,
Right.
um,
Right.
and trying to work with a lot of these people to, make this like kind of our own Silicon Valley here.
There you go. Hey, I like that. That works. Now, let's go back to being in college, your college years, and doing your studies in college. Did you know this is what you wanted to do, or
Oh
how
yeah, I
did this
already I already had
evolve?
multiple .coms by 15. So as a freshman here, and well, I guess if this is the OC Power Plays, you guys probably know Santa Margarita. So by freshman year, Santa Margarita, I already had multiple .coms. I was buying .coms off people. I was hiring salespeople to go out there and IRC. If you guys remember IRC around the country, I
Right.
was hiring developers to build out software. And yes, by the time I was in college in Silicon Valley at Santa Clara University, business school, and I was actually already being recruited by my like venture capitalist teachers to come speak to groups of Italian Fulbrights, and I'd get taken in limos to go meet the different VCs in the valley. So, and I had a blog network, so we had like companies like Intel as Fortune 500 sponsors, and I was driving up and down in Silicon Valley to meet like Glam Media to cut ad deals and stuff. So I was already deep. I had celebrity clients and stuff, from like the
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Tarantino
Yeah.
family or the Hasselhoffs and stuff. So I was in college. I was already doing that. My publicist would have to pay the bouncers to get me into clubs to meet my clients because I was under 21 even, so
Yeah.
even by
Yeah.
that time I was already deeply ingrained in the entrepreneurial lifestyle. Never slowed down. I'm accelerating now, and if anything, I'm just so excited. Never really got into the crypto or Bitcoin thing. But I've always been a huge proponent of AI, more and more so, just
Hmm.
because there's so much utility in it, and I'm
Right.
leveraging the crap out of that right now, from having it help me, build agents, to, find great companies, to help do marketing and sales for different companies, to actually build out tech and world changing tech, to do R&D and engineering analysis. Would this potential system work? Okay, how do we find people to manage this? How do we find people to grow it? So I'm just really excited to really, grow the AI sphere within Orange County, because there's so much utility and room for it to improve our quality of life,
Right.
and allow
Right.
people to do more with less, which I think is really critical.
Right. Right. And that seems like people need to embrace it and learn how to use it, because if not, they're going to kind of get pushed out of the way.
Very fast though. I mean, it's accelerating extremely quickly. And if you listen to some of the past CEOs of like Google, like Eric Schmidt, I was just watching something yesterday, and I forget the exact way they phrased it, but it's recursive. So, like even at OpenAI, 20% of their algorithms getting actually coded, or Google is actually getting coded by AI, right? And that's going to improve and improve. So it's going to get rid of jobs, but people are going to either have to become more and like engineers to really craft it. But a
Hmm.
lot of jobs, I mean, I'm even able to, I'm starting to program robots and humanoid robots with GPT and custom phrasings. You can use it to do things that you want to do. So that era is here. The iRobot, It's not 20 years down the road. You can buy humanoid robots for 10 or 20 grand. I want to build out businesses in Orange County, so reach out to me, guys, right? So all these day-to-day tasks that you don't want to do, whether it's,
Right.
people come to clean your office every day. Well, why couldn't a humanoid robot do 80% of the work and someone come behind and do the other 10% of the work?
Right.
You can go to the Orange County Library if you stop by, and I like to walk around and do calls all the places, and you'll see the little robots cleaning, doing the grass. So I think there's going to be tons of business opportunities where a few engineers and business people can leverage the power of robots to do things, whether it's an OC or around construction, car cleaning, house cleaning.
Yeah.
I mean, not just that. I mean, it could be literally anything. It could be, driving by your real estate listing and making sure it's working, or unlocking a door and walking someone through it and keeping track of them. There's literally endless options. So I just really want to empower people to think creatively and start embedding these things, because there's going to be some huge downsides and scary aspects of AI. So I at least want to be gun ho on empowering people to hit the gas pedal on maximizing the good side of it as much as we can, because there's some scary sides of
Right.
it too down the road.
So how do you think there's businesses that are not utilizing AI at all? How do you expose them to it and expose them to the abilities that AI has, the automations, the workflows that they have to make their businesses more
Yeah, not
efficient?
everyone's gonna be as techie or understand that. So I mean,
Mhm.
I that's one of the firms. I also have a consulting and tech brand, so that's where I help technology empower companies to utilize these kind of things.
Mhm.
Um, just like I'm building out these algorithms and lead scoring engines for my own companies to score things, I'm gonna start offering that as a service to third party companies to utilize AI. I've already built AI companies too to help people use AI to improve their sales, their marketing, their tech stack.
Mhm.
People's going to be able to hire. That's a whole new job class. There's going to be a whole new, division department of people that help enable AI within enterprises and organizations. And I think there's a huge aspect of enabling. I had this conversation this morning of it, utilizing AI and third party workforces to improve your personal life. There's all sorts of ways. I even use virtual assistants overseas, not just within companies, but just to handle day to day secretary and life tasks personally. So I think there's a huge need for people to really embed this in their day to day life and their business life. Just quality of life. If you can spend 1 hour doing something instead of 3 hours, and you multiply that cumulatively over 4 days a week, 5 days a week,
Right.
7 days a week, hundreds of days, years, the amount of time and energy you save from that can be used to improve your health or just your QOL, your quality of life. And that's what
Right.
Orange County is all about. That's why there's the
Yeah.
billionaire playground here. Is when you figure out those laws of business and rules of how to duplicate yourself
Right.
and and delegate. That's the whole point, and that's the beauty of AI when you really figure it out. And I think
Yeah.
there's a I think a lot of people think it's 0 or 1, like AI is going to do everything. I think there's this middle layer you really got to find of how to train other people to use AI on your behalf, because there's going to be a human component. But if you can delegate responsibilities to people to go sit there and use AI to empower them on your behalf, use
Right. Right.
humans
Right.
and AI, then you have a real solution. I'm doing that, and I'm just doubling down, tripling down, and it's exciting.
Like one of my favorite books by Dan Martell is Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah,
So that's kind of like how you said delegate. You delegate off of your plate
yeah.
and utilizing the latest and greatest systems that are available. And now you have extra time to either use it on a personal side or to help grow your business at the same time, make you more efficient.
Mm. I'm all about that, and I think I've read a lot of those books and audiobooks. I'm deep into that, and it's really important to listen to a lot of them, because you get different, like, gold nuggets from different ones of them. But
Right.
ultimately, I'd say, like, the best way to, like, understand delegation is really, it sounds less sexy, but SOP, right? How do you create a repeatable list of tasks and steps for something you need done, and that's how you really delegate. That's the true way to delegate. Standard operating procedure sounds boring, like something you hear about only big corporations. But that's how you do anything, whether you're opening up a Starbucks franchise or anything. It's really just, here's
Right.
the 10, 15 tasks you're going to do. Here's the order to do it, at least to provide a framework. And then you can be more managerial and do 10% of overseeing things being done on a repeatable scale. That's the underpin to delegation, right? I'm sure as you've read these
Right.
books, it's really,
Yep.
if you're
Yep.
going to delegate, you have one way or another, whether you want to call it a task list or something. That's the key fundamental, step in delegation, which it gets more and more exciting as you get more, sophisticated in business. Because
Right.
that's like literally one of my main goals as I get older and more mature with my businesses, is all these things that I've used to do is creating a list of the things someone else needs to do that you want taken off your plate. And then
Right.
you can revisit that list and add things and remove things, make it
Right.
simpler, make it prettier. But that's literally how you manage other people and grow and scale. That's the core
Right.
principle.
Yeah, you just tweak it because it's going to have updates. But here's the other beauty about having those lists is that when you hire somebody new, you don't have to rewrite it. You're like, hey, look at this is exactly what I need you to do. And you
Yep,
can hire multiple people doing the same thing if you're growing in that case. Or if that person leaves, the new person that sits in that desk has the
exactly.
SOP already made.
And there's a ton of softwares out there. People get all down the rabbit hole too much about which software for this or that. At the end of the day, the most simple way to start is just Google Docs. You have it can be any platform, right?
Right.
But some way to have a repeatable task list that you can edit in real time, and someone else you can share it with multiple people. And if you update it, they can see the updated task list. Now you can import that to project management suites and things, so people can click through checklists and things like that when you
Mhm.
want to get more sophisticated and really turn into a business. But that's really just what it comes down to. I know we got down that rabbit hole, but I love the concept and the of delegation and removing things off your plate so you can do
Right. No, no,
more.
but it's a super important concept in any business, right? Because how do you build different departments and different units, and what do they have to do is you have to have an SOP made for that department. This is what you guys have to do, and this is how you do it, and having standards of how
Hmm.
you do it, right? And then that way you're able to measure, you have KPIs and whatnot, and then figure it out, and then see where you have to tweak to keep moving along.
I think the best way to make it sexy is when it really struck me. It literally is just that word was delegation, but it was when Richard Branson said it. Because if
Mhm.
there's ever, there's lots of guys that are just awesome, but I mean, come on, he has Virgin Records and Virgin Space and Virgin this and Virgin,
Yeah.
Virgin Cruises, and like the guy has just done it. And there's like an interview where it's him and his assistant or something, and someone's interviewing him, and it's like, Richard, like, how do you manage all these businesses, this and that? And I've always been that way running multiple companies. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
want to learn. Like, Richard, what are you doing? And he's
Yeah.
like, one word, delegation. And like, it's so simple, yet it's not. But literally at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And like, you have to just relinquish control. And the way to do it is through processes and expected standards. And yeah, if someone's not performing to your standard, you either keep training or improve them, or that's just not the right person. That's so nothing's ever always going to be done 100% to how you want it, but
No.
that's the reality of business. You'd rather do, JP Morgan used to say, the actual JP Morgan, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's income than 100% of one. So, no one's going to do things always to your standard, but if you have 100 clones and people out there doing something on your behalf or your organization's behalf,
Yeah.
let's rock and roll. Life's too short. We can only
Right, right,
stuff so
exactly,
much.
exactly. Because you have the same 24 hours. You just have to multiply yourself,
Yeah.
right? You can't are you relying on yourself to do all this work, you're maxed at 24 hours and you got to sleep somewhere in between there.
Yeah, and like Mark Cuban says, business is a 24-hour competitive sport, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, so I keep going. Anyways, yeah, we can dive into some other topics here. I know I kind of just went down the rabbit hole with that, but I think it's an
Yeah,
important
no,
thing
no,
for. I know
we
I'm sure
have
there's a lot of
the
entrepreneurs watching, and that's some critical things that I learned from all of our investors too. Because that's the cool thing about running this investor network is I get to attract these major business leaders from all over the world to fly in, so I don't have to go sit at Starbucks with all of them. They can come right to my door at my events here. But you get to hear just the wisdom and feedback and the business models and the secret sauce of how all these companies are working, because they present it on stage or they tell me ahead of time when they're explaining their business models or their team, or I'm seeing if I want to work with them or partner with them. So I definitely, especially if you're in Orange County, definitely recommend you guys to come. I'll share my contact information later on this, but
yeah.
globalcapitalnetwork.com. info at globalcapnetwork.com to email us, but you can look on our website. We usually list our upcoming events. I almost always do them in Newport. From renting, I rent out super yachts. I'll have cruises around the harbor with hundreds of investors and entrepreneurs. To I rent out Balboa Bay Club or the Vea or the Pendry.
Right.
Lately I've been using the Marriott Renaissance Crossbun John Wayne. Although my next event, actually, even though we'll bring in a lot of our OC people, I'm actually going to do in Carlsbad at this badass like $10 million studio that one of our partners just built. So we're going to move out of OC just to bring in some San Diego love. Since I have a lot of LA and OC love in a lot of our events, I'm really focusing on the SoCal region though, to really connect these three distinct regions. And that's why I really love OC, because we are, and that's why I explained to all my clients and partners, we were able to bring into LA, being an hour south of LA, and being 1 hour north of San Diego. We're really that connector, whereas people from San Diego don't necessarily want to go all the way to LA and LA to San Diego for events and to connect. So really, we really need to utilize OC more as for our physical advantage of geo.
Right. No. That's correct. And now, what are the qualifications for somebody to be able to attend?
Yeah, so I do open up attendance, to entrepreneurs and things to at least attend. But to present on stage, usually I require someone has a pretty solid business model. Sometimes they're pre-revenue, sometimes they're not. So I have companies that have hundreds of millions in revenue, or they're public. I have a lot of private companies. So usually to present on stage, you have to go through our process to talk to us. There's fees too, but I want to make sure you have a solid pitch deck, or you can put two words together and you have a solid business model, and it's going to look good in front of our investors. But I do allow the opportunity for early stage companies and people kind of figuring their stuff out together still to get on stage. But I try to mostly focus on really solid opportunities from badass investors or VCs that are bringing me multiple opportunities. And that's also where I'm partnering with these large banks and such, because they have access to really credible, pre-qualified, awesome content, across different verticals. So I know you're in the real estate space, so I have major developers, speak on stage with $100 million deals. But then we also have AI, we have impact. I'm doing the women's side of it. I have med tech segments. So I really try to bring in all these different market segments. So it's not just a tech conference or just real estate, but it's an area for a lot of different groups that, you can find what you're interested in. But we'll have 40 or 50 different vendors too. So whether you're a service provider in Orange County or LA, San Diego, like an intellectual property law firm, or you have a product, it's kind of like a marketplace as well, since I have 30,000 square feet of space, multiple areas. I have people showcasing their products and their services, whether they're raising money or just looking for customers. So I'm trying to be, this marketplace, not only the digital side, but the physical side, where it's not like a networking thing. It's focused on doing deals. People present pitch decks on stage. They're live streamed to 100 to 200 people around the country and around the world. So it's not just, come stop by for an hour or two for a drink. This is 12 hours long, and I extend it with event the day before and day after. And we're working to make this a multi-thousand person event to really be the lifeblood of OC, LA, and San Diego. And there's not only a few players that do things bigger than me, but they're usually, investment banks with $50 million. They're not as a smaller firm here. So it's really exciting.
So that's almost like a Orange County Shark Tank.
Exactly.
Yeah. And no, that's great, because that way, if somebody who's listening is an investor, they can reach out to you. If they want to get in there and look at what companies are presenting, or if there's a company out there that's looking for seed capital or raising money for anything else, they can also be there and talk to you about that.
Exactly. And the interesting thing about what I've built is I've made it, like I was explaining, like an aggregator. So there's different angel networks in Orange County, LA, San Diego, and they'll host events, but then you're kind of really also just relegated just to them. And some of them have specific focuses or only certain check sizes. Maybe they can only write a check under $250,000. That's why I like to have a room where I have guys that can write a $20 million check, right? So I bring in a lot of the different angel investor groups, whether it's their heads, or some of their other leading investors, or just some of the constituent investors. So you can talk to Curates or Tech Coast Angels or Thai Angels or some of the women's angel groups, or some of the more upcoming groups, or some of the ones that are tied to, like I was saying, whether it's like the San Diego State University, brought a lot of their companies. I let a few of them speak on stage, and then I also had like 8 or 9 of them having booths. Same thing with like UCI.
Right.
Then we'll reach out to different groups like USC, for example. I know you're a Trojan. We were talking about that.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of like their MBAs and their people come from their business programs. But it's not just some educational things. So I'm trying to bring in, allow access to graduate students and on young entrepreneurs to learn how to pitch and what it's like to raise money. But also as a very serious players, right? A public company returned multiple
Right.
times to us.
Right.
That his market cap raised $30 million after presenting on my stage that day. So it's exciting, and I at some point I probably will focus in certain niches more, but there is this, a very fun aspect of being able to aggregate a lot of these different communities and to pull bigger numbers and not have a 30-person event, but to have a 500-600-person event. Yeah, and I'm gonna segment the physical space and the time better, but
that is awesome. So as we wrap up our interview, what exciting plans do you have for the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, so I just got back from almost like a month in Europe looking at international locations. So from Venice, Italy, actually found a beautiful location. I was there actually during Jeff Bezos' wedding. I didn't get to go to Bezos' wedding, but I was there during it. Saw Trump go around. It's like at Saint Tropez, Monaco, London. Actually, it seems like a really strong candidate for an international event after the whole trip. Barcelona, Ibiza. So I went all over these beautiful high-end, high-tier locations, looking at potential future locations. I didn't get to go to Dubai because it was, one, we were going through this kind of crazy stuff in the Middle East at the time, but it was also like 150, 120 degrees. So I was like, no, I'll wait till next trip when it cools down a little bit for me to check that out. But so looking at some international destinations. And really just doubling down on building out this impact fund. I want to build like a $20-30 million impact fund pretty soon here. I have a lot of partners that are, pre-committed, that they'll put in money and resources and advisory and really use that to, scale up definitely things in my backyard, entrepreneurs here doing world-class innovation that can change the world. So there's just a lot of things on my plate 24/7. But so if you're trying to change the world and you're an OC, I want to hear about it. I can connect you to the right people.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Josh, thanks so much for sharing your insight and everything that you do.
No problem.
And if somebody's listening, how could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. Whether it's LinkedIn, Josh Bois, there's about 25,000 connections there, so I'm always active on LinkedIn. It's a little tough to get to everyone's messages and their friend requests because there's too many people on there. Instagram, Josh Bois, Facebook, Josh Bois, joshbois.com. That's Josh, JOSH, by the way, or globalcaptainart.com. That's one of the easiest ways to kind of just get into my ecosystem and kind of get a feel for things and see if there makes sense for us to partner on a deeper level.
Right. No. Well, Josh, thanks so much for coming on our show. And to our listeners, please go to ocpowerplayers.com and follow us on your favorite channel. Thanks so much, Josh.
For sure. Appreciate you guys.
Sure. All right.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.